Imagine a bishop so determined to stop a book that he buys up every copy he can, but only ends up paying for the author's next better edition. I'm Claire Ridgway, historian and author, and on this day, the 27th of October 1526, Bishop Cuthbert Tunstall presided over a public burning at St Paul's in London, Lutheran books, and crucially, copies of William Tyndale's English New Testament. The bonfire made headlines across Europe, but did it work? Or did it spectacularly backfire? It's the reign of Henry VIII. At Paul's Cross by St Paul's Cathedral, Bishop Cuthbert Tunstall, erudite, cautious, a churchman with humanist friends, oversees a ritual of public purification. Tunstall has issued an edict. English New Testaments are to be found and delivered to him. Why? Because, he says, certain followers of Luther have translated the New Testament into our English tongue, intermeddling therewith many heretical articles and erroneous opinions, seducing the simple people. Into the flames go books, including copies of the first edition of William Tyndale's New Testament. The message is clear. Orthodoxy will be defended. English scripture on these terms will not be tolerated. And yet, this is the part every Tudor history fan loves. The burnings actually backfired. The story goes like this. To destroy the offending text, Tunstall and allies bought up copies of Tyndale's first edition in bulk, and they'd been smuggled in from the continent. But that money then bankrolled Tyndale's revised edition, allowing him to print more, improve the text, and flood England with an even larger supply of the very pestilent book the authorities were trying to stop. Even Thomas More, Tunstall's friend and fellow humanist, warned that buying and burning would only fund more print runs. And that is broadly what happened. Suppression fed the presses. Educated at Oxford and Padua, Cuthbert Tunstall was a skilled diplomat, humanist, and later Bishop of Durham. He moved carefully in a dangerous age, too carefully, some thought. In 1526, as Bishop of London, he's trying to steer between Erasmian scholarship and doctrinal control. But this is a post-Luther world, and vernacular scripture, especially one carrying Protestant marginal notes or theology, looks to Tunstall less like humanist piety and more like heresy, a risk to England and her people. The enemy, William Tyndale, is brilliant, stubborn, and gifted with languages. His vision? Scripture in English rendered with clarity and accuracy from Greek and Hebrew. In 1523, he even travelled to London seeking patronage from Tunstall for an English Bible. He was rebuffed. By 1525-1526, Tyndale is in Cologne and Worms working with continental printers to produce his English New Testament. Copies begin slipping into England, hidden in barrels, bales of cloth, and book shipments. Scholar Bradley C. Pardew argues that Tyndale's project began mainly as an Erasmian humanist enterprise, a push for learned pastoral reform, not necessarily a full-blown Lutheran revolt. But the experience of seeing his work hunted, bought up and burned, and of being denounced as a corrupter of souls, drove him firmly into the Protestant camp. This wasn't just a quarrel over paper, it was about authority. Who decides what the faithful read? Church and crown or conscience with scripture? Language and access? Latin for the few or English for the many? The power of print. Could Tudor England control ideas in the age of the printing press? The campaign against Tyndale didn't stop, and his opposition to Henry VIII's Great Matter saw things get worse for him. He was eventually captured in Antwerp and strangled and burned in 1536. But by then, English scripture in some form was unstoppable. Within a decade, under the Tudors, vernacular Bibles would find official pathways into parish life. And Tyndale's phrasing would beat at the heart of English religious language for centuries. So on this day in 1526, Bishop Cuthbert Tunstall threw books onto a fire to protect the faithful. But the bonfire at St. Paul's became an advert and a fundraiser for the very book he feared. Suppression collided with print, and print won. Just 12 years later, in 1538, Henry VIII's right-hand man, Thomas Cromwell, was directing the English clergy to provide a copy of the Great Bible, a Bible in English, into every church in the kingdom, a translation which was very much based on Tyndale's earlier work. Tyndale definitely won. So what do you think? Was Tunstall a responsible guardian trying to prevent error, or did he misread the power of the press? And did persecution make Tyndale the Protestant trailblazer we remember? Tell me in the comments what you think. And if you enjoyed this on this day, please do like, subscribe and ring the bell for more daily Tudor and Reformation stories. I'll see you soon. Bye bye.